Oh, God damn it. Oh, here we go. Hey, we're live, everybody. It's Always Bookin Comedy. And boy, always racing to a comedy show. I am in a ski storage locker, about to do a private show in about an hour. And I got delayed by 2 different accidents on a drive up to the mountains. Anyways, you don't care about that. You care about Big Jake Hovis, who's joining us. Right? Look at those shiny whites. Good to see you, buddy.
Yeah, good to see you. That's fun that you're in a locker.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, a little stressed. Just to give you a little insight, like we're doing a show basically behind this wall, big fancy private corporate thing, and I set up the stage, the sound, and the microphone, but I haven't set up the lights. I got crap strewn all over the place, and I had to jump onto this. And once this is over, I have exactly 30 minutes until the doors open. So hopefully I can clean everything up, and we'll see. Anyways, I made it, thank goodness. At one point, it seemed like I was going to miss the beginning of this because I'd still be stuck in traffic. But anyways, Jake, you live in Louisville, right?
I do.
Is that how you say it?
Louisville? Yeah, Louisville. So
Louisville.
The idea is when I try to tell people how to say it, you do 2 syllables. Louisville is how you do it if you're trying to sound local. If you are just trying to make it have no one make fun of you, say Louisville. Louisville is fine.
Okay.
Louisville will get you killed, right?
That's a city in Colorado.
Yeah.
So or town. I don't know what you call it. Awesome. Well, we did some road stuff earlier this year. Maybe we'll get to that later. Let's just start with the basic. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to pitch you a softball. I'm going to go get my slice of pizza that's like right over there that I forgot to bring to the taping. Very professional episode here. The softball is, Jake, how long ago and how did you get into the comedy? How did it get started for you?
Oh, great. Yeah. And let's see this pizza. Yeah. So I started in improv. I'm a big fan of podcasts, and I was listening to a podcast, and one guy was giving another guy a hard time about because the dude said that he was going to take improv classes and he never did. And I thought, I didn't even know it was possible to take improv classes. So I was living in Denver at the time. And so I just Googled improv class Denver, went to the first place I saw. It was Voodoo Comedy Playhouse. They've since changed their name to Rise, and took a class there, loved it so much that I signed up for another improv class at a different theater. So I was doing 2 classes almost immediately, jumped in with both feet. And then you fast forward 2 years of doing basically improv 5 or 6 days a week and thinking, I don't think I need these other people. So let me just do it all by myself. So that's what I did.
Love it.
Yeah.
How long have you been free of the other improvers?
Yeah, been basically just doing stand-up now for a little over 4 years. So 4.5 years. I'm getting close to my 1,000th set. So I'm pretty excited about that. I have a spreadsheet.
Amazing.
Yeah, I have a spreadsheet. So I've kept track from the very first one all the way. And I'm about 1,000. And that's one of those things where, comedians will talk about like, how long have you been doing it? And I understand that's an easy way to kind of figure out their proficiency. But it would be nice if every comedian kept track of how many sets they did, because that's, I think, a much better metric. Because if you do 2 sets a year, but you've been doing it for 20 years, you're not a 20-year vet. But, one of those things.
All right. I missed half of that because the Wi-Fi went out, but.
Oh, great. Yeah. Well, it was good. Yeah. You can just trust me on that.
It was good. Lots of sets, track them in a spreadsheet.
There we go.
All right. So how do you end up in Louisville?
Yeah. Louisville. Yeah. I was coming, I wanted to move closer to my wife's family. And so then we were thinking about where in the country. And I kept looking at like Nashville and Indianapolis, and I liked kind of the Midwest area. And then right in between, seriously, like 2 hours from Nashville or 2.5 hours from Nashville and 2 hours from Indianapolis is Louisville. And I'm like, this is like right at the edge. And it's within 500 miles of 2/3 of the U.S. population. So it's awesome. And it's also very cheap. Indianapolis is not a very expensive city, but Nashville is now very expensive. And so here's a city I can move to. I can live. I can, go to all the surrounding cities. Super into that. And then, of course, I'm probably burying the lead is I went to seminary in Louisville. So I lived in Louisville for 5 years before I moved back to Denver. Denver's my hometown, but I moved. I went away for school and then came back.
Oh, that's so convenient. Well, that's probably the best tip you're going to get out of this show tonight. You can just shut it down now. Move to Louisville for comedy because
that's right.
Geographically, it sounds perfect.
It is, and the thing is we just opened a 4th comedy club.
Wow!
So, I mean, it's going, man.
That's why I got to get out there, Jake.
Yeah.
You got a couch? You got a floor?
Yeah. I got a guest room. With
look at that. All right.
Cool. A separate bathroom. I have comics there all the time.
Deluxe.
I know it. Yeah.
Catching up on a comment from Mark in the Carolinas. He used to go to Voodoo's on Mondays for improv. So I guess before he moved to the Carolinas, he was in the Denver area. All right, Jake, let's get into so I know you've run shows because I was on one of your Denver shows once upon a time. Mm-hmm. Tell me about, I don't know, how do you, like, why did you start running a show and booking a show?
I think I started booking a show early on just to get better stage time. You're not supposed to do this, so I'm not advocating it, but if I book you, you'll book me. That's the sort of thing. We all know it happens. And so if I can at least
boo, by the way, boo. Yeah. Best show you can book, always.
Absolutely. But sometimes bookers don't know you exist. And you put them on your show, and then you can, have like it feels like I've forced them to listen to my audition tape.
There you go. Yes.
So if we put a positive spin on it, but so that was one of the reasons why I haven't been booking as much in Louisville. I've been doing shows a lot, and I've been booking like 1 or 2 shows, a year. So not huge.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice. So did you learn any lessons when you were running shows?
Yeah. I think, I liked it showcase style, but let me do this story real quick. There's a guy from Maryland who is going to come to Louisville and run 2 shows on 2 separate nights. It's actually on St. Patrick's Day and the day after St. Patrick's Day at these breweries in town. And he got sick or something happened. I don't know 100% what happened, but he reached out to local guys and like, hey, can somebody run this for me? I don't want to like burn the bridge. We've already had tickets, blah, blah, blah. And so I took over for him. And the thing that I did that I really liked doing is I instead of having a host, I did shotgun style. And I really enjoyed that. I think that made it better. And the way that I did it, at least, is so I did 2 shows back to back.
Do you want to explain what shotgun style is for people who don't know?
Each comedian will bring up the next comedian.
Yeah.
And
they
so
at the big shows at the Comedy Store in Los Angeles, they do this. It's pretty rare, but it's not completely uncommon.
Yeah, and I really like. And so what I did at this bar show, this at a brewery, is I started the show with like, hey, welcome. Here's logistics. And then like, let me introduce the first comedian. You'll see me again later. And so then I felt like I hosted it, but didn't have to like really host it. And got it off on the right foot, and then was able to come back. And I also, as kind of a solid to some of the comedians, if you're doing 10 minutes at the top, do your 10 minutes, introduce the next guy. If you want to stay. If you don't have to like, that's always not fun. I don't think is when you're hosting and you do your 10 minutes at the top, and now you're staying to the very end of the show.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Yeah. Yeah, there's some advantages to it. It's always fun when a person gets up and can't remember. This actually happened to me. I was on a show in at Stir Crazy Comedy Club in Phoenix, Arizona, Glendale. Excuse me, Glendale, Arizona, just a couple weeks ago. And I don't know any of the comics there. All the comics knew each other. And I'm like towards the end of the show, I got introduced to the guy that I'm introducing like an hour before I actually went on stage. And then like 2/3 of the way through my set, I realized I don't remember that guy's name. I think I know his first name. Not sure about his last name. And I go into my closer and I'm just like, I mean, there's like 100 people, paying audience members. It was a little embarrassing. I had to be like, all right, your next, I don't remember his name at all anymore, but let's say it was Dave. I was like, your next comic, I just met him an hour ago. His name is Dave. What's your name? Because there's like a little door. And I could hear him yell his last name. I said, make some noise for my best friend, Dave.
There you go. Yeah.
So it doesn't always hosts it to me as an audience member. A show with a host feels more professional, but what you're talking about, advantageous for comics for sure, especially if you're stuck with that host spot. All right, we're gonna do a quick interlude. Question from Mark in the Carolinas. How did you log 1,000 shows in 4 years with COVID shutting venues down?
Oh, so I count the online shows. So, and I've got them in a different, so part of in my spreadsheet is what kind of show it was. And so I want to say around 100 online shows in 2020, 2021, between open mics, and they were still booking things. I remember Flappers did a bunch of shows, which was kind of weird.
Yeah.
So I've performed at Flappers kind of, but yeah, so that was it. Yeah.
Huh. Cool. And then he moved to basically the Southeast, or within spitting distance, no pun intended, of the Southeast, where comedy never really died.
That's true. Yeah. Yeah. When I got here, the vaccines weren't out yet, but as soon as the vaccines were out, basically everything was like, COVID, what? So, yeah.
Okay, cool. So, shotgun style. Did you ever pop up? Like, did you always run shows at established venues like comedy clubs, or did you ever like drag in a speaker or a light system or something?
Oh yeah. So the only thing that would be close to that would be I've booked a lot of gigs through Gig Salad.
Okay.
And that's
why don't you explain briefly what Gig Salad is?
Yeah. So it's this service and website or whatever that people that want a performer have a gig coming up can say, hey, here's the details, and then the performers get the leads, and then we respond and go back and forth. I've done a lot of those shows. Some of them good, some of them awful. They all pay, which is great. But some of the weirder ones are at nursing homes. I think I've done about 10 shows at nursing homes. And one time I forgot to bring my speaker, and they didn't have a speaker. And it was like, oh, okay. So they're just going to look at me because they can't hear me.
You're going around ear to ear yelling in jokes.
So, but yeah, there's been times when I've done that where I've brought the speaker and done the show, and not everybody knew it was happening. It was like, oh, it's a little surprise for, the school, or surprise for the, community, which is not the best, but
yeah. Huh. That's great. So you have your own portable speaker system.
Yeah, I've got a PA now and microphone. I don't have lights, but I haven't seen the need for that. And I don't have a stage because I'm gigantic. So,
do you have a mic stand?
I do have a mic stand. Yeah.
Nice. What kind of bass are we talking?
Round.
Perfect. That's the good kind. You don't want that triangle garbage.
No.
That's what I started out with, and I had to have somebody tell me, look, Mark, you can't have this kind of mic stand. as a comic. There are people who won't perform with these. You need an actual metal bass. I was like, really?
Yep.
They're so much heavier. And now I get it. Now I get it.
Yeah.
Of
Oh
course,
yeah.
you want a metal bass circle thing. Here's a quick funny story. A comic broke one of my mic stands recently. Basically, like pulled it out of that round circle thing, and then it wouldn't go back in. And it had been like the threads were worn out.
Yeah.
And it was in the middle of a show. It was like 45 minutes into a show with 100 people in a theater. And so we just went without a mic stand the rest of the time. And then I didn't call the company. You can't call companies anymore. But I got an online chat the next day. And like 2 weeks later, I had a free mic stand in the mail.
Well,
They
there you
asked
go.
like 0 questions. I didn't have to mail in the thing. This is apparently pretty common that these things break. And so, yeah, pretty sweet. I think it was a Rode, RODE. So thank you to Rode.
Yeah. Well, those are high end. That makes sense.
I guess.
I think mine is like
that
Amazon
expensive.
Basic.
They're still less than $100, I think.
Yeah.
And I also want to thank Vendetta's Pizza. That pizza was delicious. Thank you. And apologies if the one viewer, listener, whatever you want to call him, who has complained about me in the past eating on this podcast or whatever you call it, web series. My apologies. I couldn't help it. There's a lot to do in this time. So all right, back to Jake and running shows. Tell us about. Well, I got a question about that nursing home gig where you forgot the speaker. Did they leave a review?
No,
that's
they
part
did
of
not.
Gig Salad, right?
Yeah, Gig Salad. It's interesting. Gig Salad is weird because I have a lot of reviews on it, and I solicited for a couple of reviews early, but since then I just haven't even asked for reviews. The very first Gig Salad event that I booked was in Cheyenne, Wyoming, and it was at this church, and they were very nice, and they paid through Gig Salad and then also gave me a check on top of it. So I'm like, oh my goodness, this is I'm a big deal now. Look at this. And I got the review in, and that review was 4 stars. 4 out of 5. And then that is the only not 5-star review I've ever had. Every other review since then has been 5 stars. But the first one where they paid an extra like $300 for no reason, they're like 4 stars. He was good,
Unbelievable. Brutal. Yeah, reviews are hard. It's part of the gig economy, I guess. All right. What's the craziest thing that's happened running a show? Ever have a comic not show up or pass out on stage or somebody heckle
my very, very first show I was running at Voodoo Comedy Playhouse, and I was doing the clean show. So I was called Fresh and Clean with Big Jake. That was my show, and it's clean. And I didn't know a lot of comedians, and so I'm just like grabbing a few, and I was trying to do showcase style, and I'm just making it all up as I go. And one of the people that I grabbed was this woman who does this kind of a one-person improv show theater thing. Anyway, long story short, she did not understand that it was a clean show and went all in. And I had invited a lot of people. This place was packed out, and I think that they were there for a clean show. And now nobody was mad. They just did not laugh. So she bombed hard in a full room that was just laughing because everybody was like, what is she doing? And it just went sideways. And then I'm like, what do I do now? I got to get her off the stage. This is my very first show that I've ever produced. This is the first one. And the third comedian up is, F-bombing left and right. And what do I do? And also bombing.
Is the person a big deal in the comedy community or like a lower level open micer? Like where are they in the hierarchy?
I don't know. Back
at the
then,
time, what did you think?
At the time, I thought she was kind of a big deal because she produced a show.
Okay.
And The show was like half variety show and half comedy. And I had gone and I'd seen it. And remember, I'm coming from the improv world. So I'd seen everybody's improv shows and whatever. And she would do like an improv show, but be like the only one on stage. So I'm like, oh, that's close enough to stand up. I don't know what I'm doing. And, anyway, so she gets done with kind of like at least one line. And she's probably 5 minutes in, one line, and then I just like yell her name out real loud and I clap real big and like, yeah, thank you. And man, she was like, what is going on with this? And afterwards, she apologized so much. Like,
oh, that's good.
I didn't know it was supposed to be clean. I'm like, yeah, you did. I told you. And like, there was like obviously things that I'd sent her.
Yeah.
But whatever. Since then, nothing has got sideways.
Jeez, that's crazy. That's interesting. I get a little bit of that situation tonight because the show I'm doing is supposed to be clean, and a headliner, which isn't me, traditionally is not clean at all. So we had a long conversation about like, what is clean, what isn't clean, and I was just, I wasn't demanding anything. It was more like we both had questions. Like, can you say this? Can you say that? And I was just like, let's feel it out. Just open strong, close strong, in the middle, experiment. If you do something that the audience doesn't like, address it and change topics to something else, So we'll figure it out. This is the first time I've done a show with this group. So we'll see how it goes. Okay. Let's talk about road work. You travel a lot, right?
Yeah.
Got any fun, crazy road stories?
Yeah. In the last week, I've had probably one of the highest highs and one of the lowest lows. And this happened just a couple of days ago. So on Thursday, I headlined at Louisville Comedy Club, which is an A-list club, very cool place. And this place seats 300. It's
how many tickets do you sell?
Had 80 or so in there. So didn't pack the thing out. I had an incentive.
That's solid. 80's pretty good.
80's good. I was excited. And I had an incentive for 100 and I didn't hit the incentive, but okay, whatever. All right. I still tried real hard and got a good crowd.
I mean, can I just pause and just for everybody else, it's in the summer, particularly, it's very difficult to sell tickets. It's got to be the slowest time of year for comedy shows, comedy clubs, etc. Because when the shows are starting, it's still beautiful outside. Everybody just wants to be drinking on a patio or a beach, depending on where you live. And nobody wants to be in a basement, hearing fart jokes or whatever. All right, let's continue.
There we go. So I was stoked. Most of the people were there. I knew a few personally. Probably 10 or so, but that means like 70 strangers are there. And I did a lot, did 51 minutes. Loved it. Great. The next night I'm scheduled to feature at Crackers in Indianapolis. And about 3:00 in the afternoon, the owner calls me and said, hey, instead of featuring, do you want to headline at Crackers this weekend? I said, sure. So now I'm headlining at Louisville Comedy Club for 80, and the next day I'm at Crackers in Indianapolis. Well, they were slow to get everything going. Long story short, one person in the audience. And so I'm like, if you had told me, hey, I'm going to headline on back-to-back nights an average of 40 people per show, I'm like, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
But it was 80 on one night and one on the next night. Like, this is the worst. Why the guy stayed, I have no idea. Why we put the show on, I have no idea. But we did the whole thing. We did host, feature, headline.
How long was your set?
I did about 32 minutes. We did it a little abbreviated, and we started early. So when I showed up at like 7:25, so like 40 minutes before the show starts, he was already in a seat. And we're like, okay, well, might as well just get started early. So we started at like 7:45 or whatever. And like, let's just plow through this thing. And we did.
That's rough, man. Because you can't even, like, I've done long headlining sets for like 10 or 12 people. Mm-hmm. And you can, like, even I've done an hour for 12 people. you get to know them. You do some crowd work in between jokes and you tell jokes about talking to them. But one person, you can't talk to them for half an hour.
Yeah. And what is the etiquette for the waitress? Like, what do I do when he's ordering? Do I just stop?
You just stop.
Right? He's
hilarious.
He's clearly, I can.
Yeah,
he's
there's
doing
0%
tip right
of the
there.
audience is listening to you.
Do I stop? I don't know what to do. So we powered through. The next day at Crackers, they had 10, and it felt 10 times better. I mean, it was so much. So still not a great turnout, but it felt great.
Were you headlining or featuring at this small show?
Both of them headlining.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
That's a bummer.
Yeah, it's a bummer. Yeah.
Okay.
Now it wasn't like I, had the opportunity to. My name wasn't on the website. It was just like the actual headliner, the guy who was on the website. He's like, he just want to do it. Do you want to? Like, all right.
Oh, okay. Like, how much notice did you have?
3 hours, something like that.
Oh, I see. Okay, so you were booked to feature, and you got
Yeah.
bumped up to headliner. Okay,
exactly.
all right.
Yeah.
Well, that's a saving. That's a saving grace of sorts, because now you hold on a second. I gotta tell these people, or I guess they're ending their conversation. All right. All right. This is very, very professional live stream here. All right. So I mean, that's better that you weren't the draw of one person.
No,
so it's not your fault, really.
No,
that's cool. All right. We got a question for the audience as we land this plane. Is Louisville provided the comedy opportunities you were expecting?
It has, I would say, far exceeded. When I moved here, we had I think they would agree with this, kind of a B-list club in town. And we also had like this indie room, and the indie room, there's rumors of it closing down. So it was like, are we only going to have one club? And then the indie room got a new owner, and they're all jazzed and excited, and they're going great. And then a new A-list club moved in, and then a second A-list club also moved in. So that's all great. Inside in the city, there's so much opportunity. There's a lot of bar shows. There's a lot of open mics. There's a lot of opportunity. But the coolest thing has got to be just how close we are to everything else. So twice this week, tomorrow and Thursday, I'll be in Cincinnati. I was in Indianapolis twice last week. The week before, Nashville. I mean, just all over the place all the time. So
how many miles you got in your car?
I've got I think only like 160,000, something like that.
Only.
So I'm hoping to get 300 on it.
I'm at 305, baby.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what my final score is when I got a crazy car story. So I'm driving to Alamosa, Colorado. From where did I come from? I had just driven in from another show back to Denver, and then I had to turn around and go to Alamosa that night. And I must have been in Vail on a Thursday night, and then stayed the night, and then drove back. Oh, yeah. And I drove a headliner to Denver International Airport, and then they flew out. Erica Rhodes, very funny, by the way, back to LA. And then dropped off all the gear that I have, lights, speakers, all that stuff, and then hop into my car and drive to Alamosa, which is, 3 to 5 hours, let's say. And about 80% of the way there, my car starts wobbling like crazy. And I had just driven all the way to Arizona and back via Albuquerque, where I did a show. So tons of mileage on the car, like 3,000 miles since I had it repaired, but I didn't know what was going on. And I'm like 10 miles from Alamosa, and I'm cutting it real close. Like I'm gonna get to the gig like within 5 minutes of it starting, and I'm headlining. And so I call the mechanic, the guy who did the work on my car, and I'm like, hey, my car's wobbling. He's like, pull over, tighten the lug nut. Oh, no. This is what happened. Somebody behind me flashed me and pulled me over. Said, hey, man, your rear tire is going crazy. And we looked at it. 3 of the lug nuts were missing. They had like snapped off.
Oh,
So
man.
I got to wrap this up quickly. Long story short, I had to get a whole new tire. I ended up getting towed 100 miles back towards Denver. It was a whole ordeal. Took a whole day. Anyways, but my car's back in pristine condition, 305,000 miles. And anyways, Jake, this has been terrific. You've been a lot of fun. And I got to go set up this showroom and get ready for the show. Mark in the Carolinas, you were great live interactor. Appreciate you all the time. And we'll be back next Monday, 6:30 p.m. Mountain. And Mark says thanks to everybody. Thank you, Jake. Again, I'm going to end this broadcast.